My first actual interaction with him, he was at the canteen line, and he had rocks that he had painted. And he goes, "You want to buy one of my rocks?" "No, I want to buy one of your rocks." "What, you don't want to buy one of my rocks?" And he goes, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Charles Manson. I'm more famous than Jesus Christ." We arrived there on a gray school bus type thing, modified school bus called the Gray Goose. And Folsom looks like a castle and has a big turret right there at the front gate. And it's got a big stone gateway coming in and big iron gates that slam behind you and just reverberate through the bus. And it really does, they tell you it's the end of the line. And it really does feel like that. You can feel the misery in the place. You can feel the hate in the place. You can feel all these different emotions, and none of them are joy and happiness. Those don't come into play. We come off the bus. The bus drops us off, backs up, and goes out. We're standing there in line at the receiving and release unit, and we have a sergeant. He's walking out in front there, and he says, "I want to welcome you all to Folsom State Prison. It's the second oldest prison. It was built in 1880. And he's giving us this entry welcome spiel. One of the people that had come up with us was a very young kid, real long hair and stuff. And while he was at Vacaville, which had a very large gay population, what they would call B-Cat Bs, which were the effeminates. And he's got painted nails and makeup on. He's standing between me and this other guy. And as the sergeant's walking back and forth, suddenly the gate behind him, coming out of 5 building, slams open, and out comes running this little Mexican guy running for his life. And just seconds behind him is this great big Mexican guy with a big old knife in his hand, about an 18-inch blade. And the small guy turns and looks at us for a moment and runs into the corner of the yard fence, bounces off, and the big guy gets there and stabs him up. Now, we have gunners on the yard. They have shotguns and they have pistols. None of them were able to react fast enough to stop that guy from stabbing this kid up. But he stabs him up, throws the knife down, and waits. All these guards run out and guff him up. And the sergeant, without breaking stride, goes, "And as you notice here at Folsom State Prison, we have unscheduled extracurricular activities happening at any given moment." And the sergeant goes, "You two, pick your girlfriend up and bring her inside." You could have 3 stabbings during your yard time before they'd finally close the yard and make you go back to your cells. Because they would just shut the yard. They'd put everybody on the ground, come out, pick up the body, take the body away, and resume yard. But after the 3rd time, they go, "That's enough. Okay, everybody go back to your cells. Playtime's over." Violence was such a normal thing that if it didn't happen for a period of time, you started getting nervous because that meant something was brewing. But you'd be trying to eat chow. And we had metal serving trays where our food came on. And at that time, they gave you metal forks and metal spoons, which, of course, people turned into stabbing instruments. But what would they do with the trays? They'd sharpen the tray on the concrete floor, and then they'd fling it across the room. And it would hit you, and it could peel a person's scalp right off their head. Weight piles. You go out to the weight pile. You better be really cautious about who you're working out with, because nobody would think something about picking a 40-pound dumbbell up and smashing your skull with it or smashing your kneecaps with it. I was there about 9 months before I got transferred to San Quentin. And funny enough, one of the people that was there that I knew, I had known when I was a kid on the streets. And his name was Doug Stankiewicz. And I knew him. I knew him and his family. They were Mono Indians. I knew his brother Johnny. In 1972 and 1976, the California Supreme Courts threw out the death penalty. When they reinstated it in 77, the very first person to go to death row was Doug Stankiewicz. It's one of these things where you're on the upper yard and they bring somebody out death row to take somewhere to medical or something, and they yell, everybody face the wall, dead man walking. And you hear the guards saying this. And I always wondered, how'd that make the guy there walking feel? Because I knew every time I'd hear it, I shuddered. Because, you're telling the guy, you're a dead man. But with California, unlike Florida and Texas, if you get the death penalty, you're far more likely to die of old age, than you are to be put to death. Because Doug Stankiewicz is still alive today, even though they have put people to death.
Did you get into any physical altercations in jail, and what would they kind of be about and over?
Well, at Folsom, when I first went there, I got into a beef with the Aryan Brotherhood. They always say that they formed up to protect whites from the blacks and the Hispanics. But what I saw was that they generally victimized the whites, and but it all came down to power, drugs, and because I didn't want to be a part of their thing, they didn't appreciate the fact that I told them, yeah, I don't need you. Initially, I was called in to go into the boxing ring because the idea was if you went into a fight ring, the guards you wouldn't get written up no matter what happened in the ring. The first guy they sent against me was a much larger man than me. The problem was he underestimated me, and I ended up putting him down. And then that made it even worse because now they're like, wait a minute, now we need to know about him. And it became that kind of thing. And but it wasn't until I actually got to San Quentin that they had sent guys to try to stab me up. But I got word. I had taped up National Geographic magazines around my arms and had telephone books made into a stab vest under my jacket. But even at that, one of the guys had a knife big enough and strong enough that even when he did, it still went through the magazines and stabbed me about an inch into my arm. I got this. One of them got slashed across the face by one of the other guy's knives trying to get me, and I ended up breaking one of their arms. And we ended up getting this altercation over with. And I was able to get away without being caught. They had injuries, so they, of course, got taken to medical. But the thing is, they can't tell, because to tell means that they're going to get, PC'd up, protective custody, because you don't tell. My thing is that I'm not going to slap fight with you. You trying to come over here and cause me a problem, I'm going to try to hurt you. And I'm going to try to make sure you got hurt so you won't want to come back again. And that's the way it worked out. Most of the prisons I was at, with the exception of very few couple, there were stabbings all the time. Even at DVI, there were cell killings. Two guys would be in a cell. One guy got mad at the other guy, kill him. Then go to breakfast, come back and tell the cop, hey, you got to get that body out of my cell. It's stinking. And that's the first time the cop knows there's somebody dead in that cell. To be honest, like Ed Kemper, and I don't know, a lot of people know who he is. When I first saw him walk into the room, he was giving us part of our orientation the second day I was in prison. He was like 6'6", 6'7", 300 pounds. And he walked in the room, and my first thought was, if I ever had to fight this man, I'd have to try to kill him, because this guy was just, he has that kind of weird, ominous presence that he's a danger just in his way walking in. And he spoke to us in a very monotone thing. And one of the things that got me was when he was talking to us, he goes, every man must have a moral compass. You must not deviate from your moral compass. And I'm looking at the guy going, and you did what? Where's the moral compass here? But luckily, with my situation with him, I only had a couple of minor dealings with him there. And then when I went to work in the hospital, he came in one time, and I had to get him into a room to be to be seen. And having to go, would you come here with me? And go over there and sit down over there, and having him just stare at me with this like deadpan eyes. It was like he wasn't, and he didn't engage me verbally. He just looked at me. I was like, oh, cripe, But Charlie Manson, a whole different character. I was there about a week, and a guy goes, hey, you want to meet Charlie Manson? And I went, Charlie Manson? He goes, yeah, he's here. He works as a gardener in the Catholic chapel garden. So he took me over to see him. And I saw him from the door. I didn't actually go in and meet him at that moment. And quite honestly, I was disappointed. And here's this little tiny man, beard, hair, and I kept thinking the way everybody talked about Charlie, he would be a larger man, and he wasn't. But my first actual interaction with him, he was at the canteen line, and he had rocks that he had painted. And he goes, you want to buy one of my rocks? No, I want to buy one of your rocks. What, you don't want to buy one of my rocks? And he goes, don't you know who I am? I'm Charles Manson. I'm more famous than Jesus Christ. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I just ignored him, right? And again, it's one of those things where he was used to being somebody that people don't ignore. Well, I'm working in the clinic, and one of the things they would do is always trying to get needles, and any drugs they could steal from the clinic. Well, a lot of times they would go and they would pressure the young guys who were working there to steal the stuff. One day he came in and he goes, look, here's a list of stuff I need. And I go, sorry about your luck. He goes, no, you don't understand. I want this stuff. I don't know what to tell you. And he's like, you got to learn how to play this. No, I don't. And so he gets real frustrated. And all of a sudden he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs, and he's jumping up on chairs and jumping off chairs, and all this. His staff's running towards him. And I see some of his other friends come running in. They hit one of the med cabinets real quick and grab a bunch of stuff and run back out. Quite honestly, having known Tex Watson and having met Charlie Manson, I've always believed that Tex Watson was he was the force behind the family. Charlie was the head, the figurehead. He made the great little cartoon character figurehead. But Tex Watson was a very calculating man, because when I met him at California Men's Colony, he was the inmate pastor in the Protestant church. He had married a minister's daughter. He had developed this yoke fellow following of people. And the thing was, you got to remember, he was the one that told the girls, Charlie says we've got to do this. Well, I'm sorry. You've got Charlie Manson. You got Charles Tex Watson. Charlie. He didn't say which Charlie told him. He was another guy that was highly intelligent. And most of the guys I knew that were serial killers were just top-notch intelligence, just not necessarily the guy you want to invite home for dinner.
Can you talk a little bit about the lead up to being released and what happened?
I've been to 9 parole hearings. And I kept being denied. And part of their argument was that I would be deported. And they thought that, well, I would just not be able to fit in over here, so I would become a massive criminal over here. 2013, I went before a parole board, and I got found suitable. And it went before the governor, and the governor was Jerry Brown, who had been a governor back in the 70s. And back then he gave the prisoners' Bill of Rights and gave a lot of inmates rights that they took away later. And he said no. And he didn't give me a reason. So we asked, and he said, because I can. And I argued in court that because I can is not a legal reason. I mean, that's like a mean reason. So it took me 4 more years to get found suitable again. They tried to fly me home on British Airways because it'd be a nonstop, but British Airways wouldn't let me be shackled. So they brought me on Delta, and I had waist chains and handcuffs on. And we went to the Sacramento airport, and they threw a sweatshirt over my hands. It says, don't try not to look out of ordinary. I've got 2 guys in suits holding my arms, and my hands are like this with a sweatshirt over it. We landed in Heathrow. They had taken all the stuff, anything I had at the prison, which was over $2,000, they had took from me to pay for my detention. I was given a 5-pound note. Walked up to the border people. Customs man comes out to me, shakes my hand, asks me how I'm doing. Told him I'm doing well. Looks at my documents, says, how long have you been gone? I said, 64 years. He goes, why are you back? I said, I'm home. He goes, yes, you are. He goes, now just walk right down there to pick up your bags and head on out. But I started my life over here again, February 13th, 2018, with 5 pounds in my pocket, and told never to come back to the U.S. But quite honestly, I don't have any desire to do that.
What's been the hardest thing about kind of adjusting to a whole new country and then also just back to freedom?
I don't know if I'm ever going to fully be able to feel like I would have been had I grew up over here. I don't have mates over here in the UK yet. I've been here coming up on 5 years, and I've yet to actually develop the relationship where I just have some guys I can go out and shoot pool with. It's one of these things where things I do myself. I go to the gym by myself. I work out by myself. I've been to a few pubs where there are pool tables. I shoot pool by myself. I don't know how to explain it, but I can't. I don't connect. But like I said, I've gotten to where I have a contentment and a peace about me that I wasn't sure I'd ever find. I have to say, my life is good. Do I not appreciate the fact that I'm 68 and getting ready to turn 69? You betcha. I'm a dinosaur. I know I'm a dinosaur. I'm just trying to be a happy dinosaur. I come home and my wife's car's not there. It's like 11:30 at night. No lights are on in the house, and we always left the light on if I'm out. And walked in. I have a man stretched out on my floor. I checked him, and he was dead.